Kim, what's on your radar?
Well, I wasn't here yesterday, so this might seem like a day late, but I want to talk about this because there's one important aspect about this hypocrisy that I want to really point out and harp on. Now, before I start, first, I want to congratulate the LA Rams on their Super Bowl win. There is nothing more epic than winning the big game at home, and for those of us in LA, this Sunday's win was something really special. Now, with that out of the way, I can't help but to once again point out the hypocrisy of what we all witnessed. Thousands of fans and celebrities all smiling, enjoying themselves, and having a great time, maskless. All while California, Los Angeles County, and SoFi Stadium are still under mask mandates. You see here, Jay-Z, you've got Matt Damon, Charlize Theron, LeBron James, Jennifer Lopez, and Ben Affleck, and others. They were all featured on NBC as attending the big game with no mention of the fact that we could all see their smiling faces because none of them were wearing masks. Now, I'm all about the mask mandates ending and people having a great time. But the problem with this past Sunday was that while wealthy fans and elites partied their maskless faces off, the rest of us in Los Angeles County are being told we have to wear a mask or we are horrible people putting others in harm's way. And I've also been told that despite there being a vaccine or test mandate for SoFi Stadium, no one was asked to present one. The average going ticket for the Super Bowl was $10,000, with some seats being sold for close to $100,000. So apparently the mask and proof of vax rule doesn't apply if you spend enough. And no, SoFi Stadium is not outdoors. The roof is glass, but it does have a roof. So this obvious hypocrisy is bad, and we've all heard about it. But while well-paid and famous NFL players played the game without wearing a mask, now you might be scoffing, of course, Kim, why would the players have to wear face masks? They're playing a sport. It takes a lot of exertion. Right, I know. But while those grown, well-paid men were playing without face masks, little kids down the street were being forced to mask up to play their sports or be kicked out of the game. On Saturday, mom and attorney Julie Hamill shared a story from her 5-year-old's basketball game. It was 80 degrees. The basketball game was outside. Yet the people at LA County Public Health, the same people whose jurisdiction includes SoFi Stadium and the NFL players, require all students K through 12 to wear masks indoors and outdoors when participating, practicing, standing on the sidelines, or spectating sports. Now, Julie refused to mask her child in the heat while her child was sweating and panting playing basketball, and because of it, her and her 5-year-old son were kicked out for not following the county orders. Now, the order reads, quote, all participants, regardless of vaccination status, bring and wear masks. Masks are required to always be worn indoors when participants are not actively practicing, conditioning, competing, or performing. Masks are also required while on the sidelines, in team meetings, and within locker rooms and weight rooms, right? All that sounds reasonable, right? They're not playing the sport, but when actively practicing, conditioning, or competing in indoor sports, masks are required by participants as practicable. When actively practicing, conditioning, or competing in outdoor, moderate and high-risk sports, which football and basketball would be, where distancing is not possible, masks are required by participants as practicable. Encourage participants to bring more than one mask to practice or games in case their mask gets wet or soiled during play. Any face mask that becomes saturated with sweat should be changed immediately. Well, at least they're thinking of that, right? The order also says anyone 2 years of age or older must wear a mask while spectating or coaching or being involved in any way. So yes, 2-year-olds must wear a mask while spectating, even outside. So again, LA County Public Health is also over the SoFi Stadium. And yet, did they even dare ask NFL players to wear masks? Certainly football is a contact sport without the ability to socially distance, right? Last I checked. And if the vaccine status of students doesn't matter, then why wouldn't the fully vaccinated NFL players be required to wear them as well? Why weren't the coaches and those on the sidelines or the spectators wearing them? Now, because of this nauseating hypocrisy, Julie Hamill is representing the Alliance of Los Angeles County Parents in a lawsuit against the county. I wish her the best of luck. Why do millionaire NFL players get to play, cheer, and party without masks while children are required to wear face coverings while playing sports outside in the heat? This sounds like child abuse. Just to top this off, Barbara Ferrer, the LA County Public Health Director, you can see her here. She was seen walking around the arena, waving at people, giving thumbs up, taking some selfies. She wasn't there inspecting the place. kicking people out, issuing tickets, or even telling maskless people to put their masks on. Instead, she was enjoying herself. And we'll give her some credit for at least following her own orders and wearing her mask. But inquiring minds are wanting to know, is she going to be ticketing SoFi Stadium for lack of enforcement? Will there be consequences at all? Do you think that had she walked through a school and saw maskless children, she'd be giving a thumbs up? That's what we're wondering. So I know, Robbie, you already talked about masks as well today. I know we're both incensed by this, but in particular, I really wanted to bring this particular aspect up of kids being forced to wear masks, playing sports outside, while NFL players are allowed to not wear masks. No one spectating was wearing masks. They're all in the heat. It was the same heat. Everybody here in Los Angeles was playing sports under 80-degree heat this past weekend. And yet children were kicked out of games if they didn't put on their masks. And yet we didn't see any of that at the NFL. It just seems like money is a giant motivator. If you have enough money, then everything can be forgiven. Nobody will care. And even then, after all of this hypocrisy, worse yet, Barbara Ferrer yesterday announced that the masks remain for kids and that they'll reconsider and they'll make a new announcement on whether or not they're going to reconsider the mask mandate for kids on February 28th.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You would think if you're an alien visiting our planet, you would think kids are at the most serious risk of dying from COVID, and that's why they have to have the most stringent mitigation efforts in place. When it's the reverse. They are the safest from COVID. They tend not to have severe outcomes unless they also have a separate or immunocompromised or have an underlying health condition. And it's fine if you want to take extra precautions for your kid, but the idea that you would require kids, well, right, like you said, exercising, playing sports
in the heat.
It makes no sense. I mean, it's abusive. I don't like it's so bad.
It feels abusive, but I don't know, Ryan, you have kids. I know, I'm sure kids have adapted to masking. You know, kids seem to adapt to whatever you throw at them. But I mean, is it normal or is this just an LA thing? I don't know. I mean, with Ryan, are your kids, when they play sports, are they asked to wear masks? Is that something that they require everywhere?
They are.
Wow.
Went to a fifth grade basketball game the other day. Everybody had to wear masks.
Ridiculous.
Recess, they have to wear masks, even when they're outside. Even when they're
Wow.
outside. They have a little bench where you can go and you can, sit socially distanced away from other kids and take your mask off for a moment. You also can take your mask off while you eat outside. Still eating outside.
Do you think
Still
that's
eating
ever
outside?
going...
It's freezing cold out. It's freezing cold out.
Yeah.
Do you think that the kids are ever going to readapt out of this? Like once this is over and they say, okay, no more masks, no more socially distancing.
Kids are extremely resilient.
So you think they'll bounce back?
So a lot of them will, but they're set. Bouncing back from a much lower place means you bounce less high. So while they will recover, you're going to see, the consequences of this, for a generation.
I imagine there are some kids who are just skipping sports because it's not convenient. I mean, I'm more likely to skip the gym these days because it's a pain to exercise while masked, right? So I assume that is affecting some kids' willingness to participate in extracurricular activities, which is bad because extracurricular activities are good for their health, good for their social development, et cetera, et cetera. So,
if parents are strong supporters of kind of strict caution around COVID, the idea that just wearing a mask but playing basketball is going to keep you from getting COVID if some other kids have COVID doesn't really scan anyway.
No.
Right.
Like, come on.
Right.
Like, if now you might but because everybody anyway, because of that, a lot of kids aren't playing because the parents won't even let them play despite the masks.
As for the people at the Super Bowl, I'm fine with them being unmasked. They should be unmasked. Everyone should be unmasked if they want to be. So that's fine, but you're right, the hypocrisy, and I don't know if it's not their fault. I don't know what each of those celebrities who are unmasked thinks the policy should be, but they should be free to discard them. So should the players, but so should obviously the kids at this point.
Yeah, and that's
sense.
really my issue with it. I agree. I think it's time. Drop the mask man. Let people wear them if they want. If they don't want to wear them, then they don't have to. But just to see Barbara Ferrer walking around like that, giving her thumbs up and looking at, and it's like if she would seriously, had she walked through a school and she saw maskless kids, do you think she'd be giving thumbs up and walking out of there without saying something and saying you guys have to be adhering?
It would have been hilarious if she walked around ticketing people, though.
Well,
After
she
the
should.
Super Bowl, after
I mean,
the
at
Super Bowl
least
win. Congratulations, ticket.
they can afford it. All the people that were there at the Super Bowl could afford the ticket.
Right.
I mean, if they could afford a Super Bowl ticket, they could afford to be ticketed by this county.
All right. Well, we'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.